What's up, and welcome back to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Your host, Thomas Keenan, coming at you again for another fire episode. Today, I got my homie Clifton Muckenfuss with me, and I've known this cat now for a couple of years, and he is heavily involved, and I'll let him explain deeper in a few here, but he's got a ton of experience, lots of business experience, been around the block, seen some stuff, done some stuff. Some of it's failed, some has been successful, real similar to some of the situations I've been in. But Clifton is real heavily involved with my good buddy Mike Claudio and his organization, Win Rate Consulting. And it's kind of cool because you and I started to do the same damn thing, just in different spaces, and obviously, different groups of people and different target market kind of thing. But there's a lot of overlap in what we do. And man, I'm just excited as all hell to have you in here to kind of chop it up with you today and kind of get some perspective from you. Here's another piece too, before I let you kind of climb in here. Like you and I, we know each other and we've spent some time together, but we really haven't spent some time together. And I know Mike. Mike's a hard charging freaking gorilla, right? And he's picky as all hell. And if you are still in Mike's circle up at a high level, there's a very good reason why. So part of me wanting to come in here and do this with you is to understand you a bit better, learn a bit more about you, what makes you tick, and what has gotten you to the place today in life and in business. So welcome, man. Appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, Thomas. Hey, I appreciate the introduction, and I'm excited for this conversation because, like you said, I've known you, known about you, but like really haven't had the pleasure of truly having any type of intimate conversations or really unpacking anything other than being at a networking event or, sharing a stage perhaps at our Champions Parade. So it was kind of more of in passing. So when you, gave me the opportunity and reached out and said, hey man, let's jump on and do this. I was really excited for this opportunity. So.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you coming in here, spending some time with us. Dude, I want to get the story here as best as possible. Like, I know we got about 45 minutes to an hour to kind of get as much of your story or helping people packed into this bag. But tell me about entrepreneurship and where you got your start in that realm and kind of the progression path that you've gone to get you where you're at.
Yeah, Thomas, I was born in Charleston, South Carolina, grew up in a really small town. My parents divorced when I was 2 years old. I grew up with my mother and my grandparents. Really kind of in a real small town. I mean, the house I grew up in was a little small 3-bedroom home built in I think the 50s, maybe the 60s. My granddad had a bunch of farmland and owned a small business. And so I kind of grew up around business, but I didn't really, appreciate it. I was an only child. I am an only child. And so part of me, Thomas, really just, in order for me to feel loved, like I needed to be the center of attention, right? Mm-hmm. And so all through grade school, high school, and even into college, I did what I thought I could do to sort of, get that attention. And how that's related to entrepreneurship is because you asked me how I got my start. Mm-hmm. And, how I got my start into entrepreneurship is not really the most legal thing. But in my effort to, connect with people and be that center of attention, I fell into, some pretty bad things in college. I abused alcohol in high school. And when I got into college, I abused alcohol, started abusing drugs and started selling drugs. And so that was really where I kind of honed my ability to empathize, ability to negotiate, ability to solve problems and provide solutions. Mm-hmm. But in almost every case, that's really frowned upon.
Sure.
So, but that's what I did to sort of feed the selfish desires that I had to be loved. Mm-hmm. At the time, I didn't really think of it as being selfish. I'm like, man, I'm just having a great time. I was just really living for the wrong reasons. I was chasing money. I was chasing a good time. And, man, by the time I graduated and moved down to Atlanta, I was arrested 7 times.
Wow.
And by all accounts, like truthfully, there's no reason that you and I should be having a conversation right now. Mm. I mean, the things that I've done would have resulted in me just not being here if it had not been for the grace of the good Lord.
Yeah.
His love and mercy and grace are really, what's gotten me here. And so, fast forward a little bit, I had some stints in the mortgage business, parking management in the valet industry. And again, I was just chasing. I was chasing opportunity because Thomas, as a lot of young people, attach money to success.
Oh, yeah.
right? We define success by what we have, what we can buy, and the money in our bank account. And so that's what I knew. And I knew that the way I grew up, man, we did one vacation a year. One vacation a year. Now, I'm not minimizing my childhood because, man, people, my parents and my grandparents, they loved on me a lot. But I had one vacation. It was every summer, and it was to the same motel, the Viking Motel in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Outside entry with like a diamond shaped key on it. Right. And I wanted more. Right. And so I thought I got to have money. And so I started chasing money, opportunity, a good time still. And so I was living in Washington, D.C. I think the year was 2005. I was living with a girl that I was dating at the time and one of my best friends. And I had a shitload of money, what I thought was a shitload of money. I was working a ton, partying a ton, and still selling some illegal substances and all this stuff. And one day this girl woke up and she goes, "Hey, I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I was just blind, man. Like things were falling, crumbling around me, and I couldn't see it. But she left, and so again, chasing money, opportunity, and women. So I chased her down to Orlando, Florida. And I got to Orlando, Florida, and realized that is not the relationship I wanted to be in. And I was living with her and her roommates, and they kicked me out of the house. I didn't know anybody in Orlando, Florida. I was literally living on the floor of an abandoned apartment. That some friends some acquaintances rather said, "Hey, you can stay here. We're moving to Fort Lauderdale. We're in the mortgage business. You can stay here." I mean, had nothing, no furniture. I was on the floor. I knew nobody. Started working in the mortgage business. And one night, Thomas, I went to this bar, and it was about a 1,500 square foot bar. And then walks this lady, this girl. And she introduces herself to me, and, we started chatting it up, and, we hit it off, and we ended up started dating. And very soon after we started dating, this young lady says to me, "I'm in love with you." I just got out of this long relationship. Like the relationship was the last thing I wanted. And I'm like, "I'm out. I got to get the fuck out of here." She continued to pursue me. And so then I decided that, hey, I think this is going to be something that I can give a go of. And how this ties to entrepreneurship is because I had an opportunity to move back to the Carolinas. I grew up in the Carolinas and South Carolina, but had an opportunity to move back to Raleigh, North Carolina. My grandmother, whom I grew up with, she was battling colorectal cancer. And it allowed me, it was about a 3-hour drive. I could go spend time with her, see her, visit her, and still take advantage of this opportunity. So that was in 2007. In May of 2007, we moved to Raleigh, new relationship, new town. Didn't really know many people in Raleigh. My grandmother passes away in July of that year. And the mortgage company that I'm working for in August shuts down. New relationship, relatively new relationship, new town. And Marianne is her name. She looks at me and she goes, "What now?" I'm like, "Fuck, I don't know. I'll figure something out." And so my first venture into legitimate legal entrepreneurship is I just said, what are the things that people hate to do? They hate to clean their houses and their businesses. And so I went to my apartment community clubhouse, and on their computer, I created a house cleaning flyer and a janitorial cleaning services flyer. Now, the damn flyer was all black and white. So imagine black background, white text. And I don't know the age of your listeners here, but I faxed these things out.
Right. It was a long time ago.
It was, man. I was faxing these things out to businesses, and I got a couple phone calls, and a couple of business owners were like, "Hey, I got your fax, but it wasted all the ink in my fax machine." I'm like, "Cool, I got your attention. Can I come down and talk to you about your cleaning?" And man, here's the thing. One opportunity led to another opportunity. I started handing out flyers, putting a door knocking, and I literally was cleaning toilets for a living. I was paying myself $250 a week and a new girlfriend again at the same time. And I'm growing a cleaning business. Now, why in the hell am I growing a cleaning business? Because here's the issue. People have a problem, something they hate doing, which was cleaning. I could come in and solve that problem. Now, it was a pun intended shitty job. But I grew that business to like a $400,000 cleaning business. Here's the reality though, Thomas. I'm not passionate about cleaning toilets.
Yeah, I feel that.
Right. And so that first business was out of desperation. One day, my childhood best friend reaches out to me. He lived in Raleigh and says, "Hey man, I got this idea. Let's start this construction company." Now, you and I just talked a little bit off air about, sort of that kind of little bit of imposter syndrome or whatever, limiting beliefs like,
Mhm.
I can't do this on my own. I got to have a partner.
Yeah.
And so when he approached me with the idea of a construction company, the only thing I knew about construction, Thomas, was hammer, nails. I had dug some foundations and shit and done some roofing in the summer, but that was it.
Yeah.
And in fact, to this day, I still cannot read a tape measure unless it's the one that's got every 1/8 inch like denoted on the tape
Yeah.
measure. And so he says, "Hey, let's start this company." Cool. Let's have a conversation. We met at a brewery, and I sat down. I came to that meeting with a Post-it note and had a business plan written on it. It was me, him, and another good friend of ours. And I said, "Here's our business plan. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. I need 1,500 from you, 1,500 from you. I'm going to put in $1,500. We're going to start this business." In 2010, at that point, still tail end of the Great Recession.
Yep.
And here I am going to go start a construction company.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy looks at me and goes, "You're fucking crazy." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Hey, go get another round." I looked at my other buddy and I was like, "Hey man, I need 1,750 from you."
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put in 1,750. So our seed money went from 4,500 to 3,500.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I'm in." And so we started this business.
Mm-hmm.
Second business I started because I was enamored with the proposition of making a bunch of money.
Yep.
The key point, Thomas, is this. My wife now, Marianne,
Mm-hmm.
no longer girlfriend, now wife, also now pregnant with our first son.
Mm-hmm.
To compound it and to make it a little bit more crazy, we're building our first starter home together. I walk in one day. I'm super excited. I'm driving a 1991 Ford E250, no heat, no AC, and a leaking gas tank.
Yeah.
And I pull in and I'm ready to go. And I walk in. I was like, "Sweetheart, I got a great idea." And she's like, "Oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
What's the idea?" And I told her, "I'm going to start this siding company and this roofing company and windows." And she looks at me, Thomas, and goes, "You've never mentioned anything to me about construction. I don't know what's going on here. Are you drunk? I know you were at a brewery. Like, what's the deal here?" And I said, "No, but I think this will work." And what I want everybody to take away from this, may be the best thing you get from this conversation, is what she said to me next had the most profound impact on my life. This lady looks at me, someone I adored and cared deeply about, looks at me and goes, "I believe in you."
Mm-hmm.
And man, if you've ever had someone that you care about so much look at you and say, "I believe in you," you know what that does to you. I know what it did to me.
Yeah.
Because not that I didn't have influence from my grandparents and my father, and my mother, and I know it's different. It's different. I don't think, because here's the thing, man. Because going back to when I was in college, they knew I got arrested. Some.
Mm-hmm.
I've told this story on multiple podcasts, and now they know everything. But I didn't give them any reason to believe me or to believe in me. I've been arrested for DUI. I've been arrested for aggravated assault, all kinds of shit. But now my wife looks at me and goes, "I believe in you." And so at that moment, I'm like, you know what? Shit, I'm going to do whatever the hell I need to do to make this happen. Now, here's the thing. People look at you, people look at me, people look at people like us, and they see where we're at today.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Damn, that dude's got it made. Damn, look at that guy. He's got success all around him. Look at that. I want some of that." What they don't see is the backstory. They
Mm-hmm.
don't see that my wife used to take 2 kids down to the health department and get WIC vouchers and food stamps and bring them home. And I was so embarrassed that I might run into my buddies at night that I would go to the food line at midnight or 11:50 right before they closed and buy milk and bread and cheese and tortillas and rice and baby food and all this shit with WIC vouchers.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's the reality, though.
It is. That's real talk.
Mm-hmm.
Right? people look at us and they're like, damn, overnight success. Yeah. It only took me 15 years overnight.
Yeah. That's
And so,
the
I
spirit.
started that business, Thomas, and I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about fascia and soffit and windows and egress and low E, and I knew none of that shit. But here's what I tell all of my clients and people that ask me about going into business and starting a business. I say, look, the number one rule is to do what you're good at. Do what you're good at. And what I'm good at is connecting with people. Uncovering what is causing someone pain. And if I get you comfortable, or when I get you comfortable enough, not in a manipulative way, because I do everything with the right heart posture.
Sure.
When I can get you comfortable enough to truly help me understand what's causing you pain, if I can provide a solution, we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I hope people realize that what you just gave right there is like some of the best sales advice ever presented, right? And some people are like, oh, that's, no, that's sales 101, but that's sales in an ethical manner. Coming in, asking questions, probing questions in a good way, not to piss people off, but to get to the root cause of the issues. So then you could say, cool, well, I've got these 3 solutions. Let me see if one of these solutions can work for you. And if I don't have those solutions, then you know what? I'm just not the right fit for you, and I got to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, time is money. It's funny you mentioned about the questions, and we talked about Mike Claudio just a second ago. And sometimes I'm talking to Mike, and he's like, "Damn, man, you ask a bunch of questions," and I do. And it's not because I'm nosy. I'm genuinely curious. Like, I love people, man. Like, I just want to connect with people. I want to be able to spread joy and be a bright light in other people's lives, because I can tell you, man, for so long, it was all me, 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 me. It's all selfish as shit. And now it's all about you, they, we. And so that was my second, entrepreneurship little run at it. And I was pretty successful at that, man. Grew that business from literally $0 in revenue to a multi 7-figure company. We had 12 full-time employees. We had a bunch of subcontractors. The decisions I made on a daily basis impacted, I thought at the time, like 100 people.
Yeah.
I've
way more than that.
Oh yeah, man. I've since realized that what I thought was 100 was probably a few thousand.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. This is always been my mindset, right? So at the peak of my last service-based company, we had about 25 employees, and there's ebbs and flows in all cycles, right? And if you're a business owner today and you haven't gotten yourself into a pinch where it's like, oh shit, how to cover payroll today, then you haven't been in business long enough, because trust me, it's going to happen. So we were in one of these cycles where it was like, oh, we had a rough couple of months. I don't know what we're going to do for payroll. We're out there doing work for people, trying to collect it on the back end, which is a whole other story we can probably talk 6 hours on. But we finally get a couple bucks in, and it's still not enough to cover payroll. And the way that I always operate and think about this is, oh shit, like if I'm going to bring you into my organization and ask you to come and perform work or services, then I need to put you first. Right. And that means if I need to go to my personal savings account and withdraw $20,000 to cover payroll for this week, that's what the fuck I'm doing. And I'm not saying that to say, oh, pat me on the back, but I've had to do that multiple times over my career in order to keep the business operational. And it sucks. It's an awful feeling. But the purpose behind it is what truly matters, not the fact that I went to the bank and pulled some money out and put it into a different account. The purpose behind it for me, and this goes to what you're just saying, you think you got 12 people on your team. No, you don't. Because Joey, your carpenter, is probably married to Susie at home, and they got 3 young boys at home and a dog. Oh, and by the way, sick grandma lives with them too. There's 2 cars in the driveway. They own a house. That all becomes your responsibility as the leader and the boss, not just Joey, the employee. It's the whole fucking family. So you start actually breaking this thing out, and you look at it from like a pyramid layout or an org chart layout. Like that one person is more like 4 or 5. So you start extrapolating this over time, and then you start realizing that, oh shit, this overflows into my the subcontractor's company over here, and then it flows over to this one's company. Oh, it flows over to the supplier's company over here too, who gives me all the materials for the job sites. And like you said, it's not 12 people; it's probably 1 people or more. So that right there has always been my thought process and the why behind it. And it's like, no, I have to do everything within my fucking power to ensure that my people are paid on time.
Yeah. Thomas, I'll tell you this, about that sort of the impact. So to kind of expand on what you were just saying, and again, to further drive home the point, well, let's say the carpenter's wife, Susie, then has a job outside the home. Okay. Now she goes to work. Her attitude based on how she's being treated at home, because now Joey's stressed out. Now she's taking that to her employer.
Mm-hmm.
It's now just the effect is just crazy. I was just having a conversation with somebody on our team, Sam Kaufman, and we were really kind of unpacking this, and we went deep. Okay. So now the kids, now depending on how daddy is, now those kids' mental state is affected. Now they go to school, and if they're in 3 different grades and there's 25 students in each grade, and now they each have a head teacher and a teacher's aide, now there's 40 administrators and educators, and now if you really think about it, it's huge.
Yeah.
And so I want people to realize that actually the decisions that we make on a daily basis, we cannot minimize the potential positive, hopefully, or negative impact. It's not just the person sitting across from you. It's not just the potential prospect or the customer or the Porta-John company. It's a ton of people.
Yeah. It's deep and wide, and it's all interconnected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I carry that. It's always top of mind for me. Right. Well, you mentioned purpose a second ago, and I mentioned that I was a very selfish person and it was all me. But when I truly tapped into and found out my why, I found my why. And, that's my wife, Marianne, my son, Chase, my son, Cody, my daughter, Cameron. And my purpose is to serve God and to serve others and be a role model for them. And when I tapped into that, things started being a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was no longer about chasing the money, chasing the opportunity. It was about how can I impact these people the best, so that your good buddy Mark Zalmanoff talks about everybody's going to die. Mm-hmm. So that when I die, those 4 people can be like, man, he made a profound impact on my life. And that's what I strive to do every single day. The decisions I make every single day, I bump them up against that. If I make this decision, is it in alignment with my core values first? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. If I make it, are these 4 people going to be happy with me?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. Let's move on. Let's go for it. If it's, I don't know, I'm not interested in it. I got way too much to lose, and that's their love and respect.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You mentioned core values there, one of my favorite topics, which you're aware of. But when did you first learn about them, and what was the implementation process of you kind of figuring out what those values were?
Thomas, here's what I believe. Every single person is living by a set of values, right? And just because they're not, memorized or written down or on a wall somewhere, or,
they're there.
Everybody's living by a set of values. And so I believe that it was in 2019 when things inside my own company didn't really start sitting well with me. I didn't know it then, but really what was happening is there was just a misalignment of core values. And it was just this knot. Like I'm like, something just doesn't feel right. And if you're not living in integrity with your core values, I'm talking to the master here, but anybody that's watching or listening, when you're living out of integrity with your core values, it's that pit. You talk about that pit in your stomach. That's what this is. And so that was in 2019. I did something didn't seem right. In 2020, I went on this personal development journey. I was dialed in. I knew what my why was. I knew what I was passionate about, and that's really teaching and pouring into people. And I was on this personal development. I went on this personal development journey. My partner at the time was okay. He was comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You and I share, I think, the same thought process here, but when a person becomes comfortable, they naturally become complacent,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe you're either growing or dying.
Yeah. There's only two options you have there.
Exactly. And so, you know, like a seed, like a plant, if you water it, it grows. If you don't, and it doesn't get daylight, then it starts to wilt and wither and die. And so I was in growth mode. He was in, I'm cool with making a couple $100,000 mode. And look, man, I'm not here to minimize a couple $100,000. Like that's a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you truly believe that you deserve now, finally, because you've moved past the past and
Mm-hmm.
everything you fucked up in the past, and you realize that the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence, like, and you know that you deserve more and you are going after that, but something is holding you back. You know, we just got to a point where I was like, man, I just don't think this is working out. You know, we got to make a decision.
Yeah.
But as it relates to the core values you just asked me about, you know, Thomas, my core values that I live by, and again, I didn't have them written down then, but as I really got deep, like I read your book, man, I used to give your book to every one of my new clients, right? I haven't taken on any new clients because I don't have the capacity now, but if I bring on another one, they're going to get the book because it's important. And so my core values that I live by, you know, give more than I receive, respect is given always, execute. We don't talk about shit. We do shit. Attention to detail. By focusing on the smallest details, we can make the biggest impact and the best impression, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
All things are done with integrity. And by living in accordance and alignment with those core values, I can go be great.
Yeah.
And it's something, I mean, I got a sign on my wall over here that's illuminated that says, go be great. I'm always consciously aware of the decisions I'm making, and is it in alignment with that mission?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had them written down. I've got to memorize. I'm living by them. And I just said, look, man, we got to do something here.
Yeah.
And we agreed to, we had an ironclad shareholders agreement. I highly recommend that for anybody out there that's in business. You better get that. Even with best friends. And even though you may be starting something new and everybody's in the honeymoon phase.
Yeah. You better get that legal tightened up before shit goes sideways. So you do it in the beginning.
Quick.
Yeah.
Yes. Why? Yeah. And it's better to do it when you're still in the honeymoon phase. But anyway.
Oh yeah.
So we agreed to, you know, go through the valuation process and all of that. And, you know, I just was, you know, again, going back to wanting to serve and teach. And so I had some people coming into my ecosystem, just say, hey man, you know, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? I started giving away, hey man, do this, help here, not expecting anything in return. I just had this conversation with my kids this morning about giving without expectations and how givers gain. And, man, I had somebody just tell me one day that they could pay me to kind of coach them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, shit, I can actually get paid to do something I'm actually good at, but maybe even do it for free. Right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we went through that process, got the company valued. And, you know, one of the other driving factors in that selling of that company, Thomas, was, I think I shared this when we were at the Champions Parade. My son, you know, everybody that starts a business generally starts it because they want money or they want freedom. They want to give their family the life that, you know, maybe they didn't have. They want to have freedom and time with their family and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, one of the other things that happened, I usually have it on my desk, but anyway, I got home one day, Thomas, and there was a letter my son had written me. He was, I think, 8 or 9 at the time. And he wrote me this letter and it said, Dad, I can remember when we used to go outside and play football and, you know, play games and just play and just do all this stuff together. But now all you do is work. And this was during COVID. And I was working out in my garage. He goes, now you barely have even time to go out and do your workouts. And it absolutely crushed me. Mm-hmm. Because the thing I said I started the business for, I had actually lost sight of and was now sacrificing.
Very common.
And it happens. And so what I now know is God was setting all this up for me, man. He was setting all this up for me. And so I just said, I committed that day. I'm like, it's not worth it. None of this is worth it, because now if I'm continuing to sacrifice time with my kids, who are my why, I'm actually living out of integrity.
Yep.
And man, it literally was like an uppercut. And that was kind of the trigger event that led me to say, hey, let's sell the company. And so I sold it to my partner, and that happened in November of 2021. Along the way, I found Mike Claudio and basically harassed him for, I don't know, 7 or 8 months.
That's awesome.
And, Mike thought I was an internet troll. My name is, not the average, John Smith, but, I'll never forget. I kept talking to Mike and reaching out to him. And I realized that he was a business coach for contractors. And I'm like, hey man, maybe I need some help with coaching for my company. This was before I'd sold it. Mm-hmm. And so we set up a Zoom, and as fate would have it, bad connection. And I said, hey man, this is really not working. Let me get your cell phone number. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh yeah, cool. Here it is right here. And from then on, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I think we're good on coaching. I kept texting him and this and that and the other. He would never even reply. Never respond. And I know you guys have probably talked about this before. Yeah, exactly. And what's funny, Thomas, is that on July 5th of 2021, I'm like, fuck, man, this dude won't give me the time of day. But on July 5th of 2021, I recorded this video. And I was like, hey, Mike, and I still have this video saved. I said, hey, Mike, and look, you won't give me the time of day, but here's the thing, man. I really think I align with your mission. I like what you're all about, the message that you're sending out here. And, I realize that if you're true to that mission and you want to grow that mission, you're going to have to bring on some key people. Mm-hmm. I think I might be that person. Oh, and by the way, I will come to Charlotte and find you. Mm-hmm. And as Mike says it, he gets that video and he's like, looks at Tiffany, his wife, and goes, holy shit, look at this video. And Tiffany's like, is that the same dude? And sure enough, Mike hits me back and was like, yeah, man, I'll give you a phone call. So I call him, and in true Mike Claudio fashion.
Yeah. What do you want?
I'm like, hey, what's up, Mike? First thing out of his mouth. Hey man, what the fuck you want from me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's accurate.
Right. But Thomas, like I was a business owner at that time. I owned 2 companies, and outside of the one-off pissed off customer, I hadn't really had anybody say that to me. Mm-hmm. And I took a moment, kind of paused, and I said, hey, Mike, actually, I don't want anything from you. I said, but I think I might can help you. Mm-hmm. And we chatted and we chatted and we chatted. And, that led to, him giving me an opportunity to join his team as a coach at that time. But what's I think worth noting here is that during that whole process, I was going to sell the company, and, I was getting connected with Mike. One of the things I had written down, Thomas, on my vision board was to buy a catamaran. Mm-hmm. To go live on a catamaran. We wrote that down on January 14th of that same year, 2021. In fact, my wife put a post on Facebook, had a picture of a catamaran, and it said, all I want to do is sell everything I own and move to the islands. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that I pray for every day and say I'm grateful for is, Lord, I'm grateful for the opportunities of which I do not know yet exist, but the ones that I know you will place before me today to let me use the talents that you've blessed me with to make an impact. Mm-hmm. So I'm praying for opportunities. Mike gives me a shot, gives me a call. It's like, yeah, man, I think I can bring you on on the team as a coach. I sell the company. I sell my home. And a year to the day exactly later, 12 months later, at our Champion Circle Q1 event, January 14th, 2022, I closed on that boat in front of like 60 people.
Yep.
And so, there's purpose behind that. There's opportunities and taking advantage of opportunities. And so, we went and moved to the Caribbean 7 days later, lived on that boat. I was running coaching calls from that boat, which is pretty tough.
I was gonna say it's gotta be challenging.
I had Google satellite phones and all this kinds of shit just to make sure. But, I had 3 kids. I have 3 kids, and my wife is boat schooling them. They're jumping around, acting crazy as shit. There are times where I jump in the dinghy or drop the dinghy in the water, get on it, go out into the middle of a mooring field, tie up to a ball, pull out my iPhone and jump on a FaceTime call and literally run a coaching call from the middle of a freaking, inflatable boat, taking notes. But that experience, Thomas, was so amazing because number one, the name of our boat was Dream Chaser. I'm a guy that grew up pretty middle class. By all accounts, was a fuck up, arrested 7 times, all this shit, drug abuser, drug user, seller, all of that. Here I am buying, a $600,000 yacht to go live on in the Caribbean. But something was still missing because, again, my purpose is to go out and serve others, serve God, which in return I can serve myself. And so in April of 22, I had jumped on a call with Mike and I said, man, I don't know why, but I feel like the Lord is leading me to tell you I need a leadership position on win rate in the team. He goes, oh man, I got plans for you. Cool. It's Friday night. It's 10 o'clock. I got to go. Right. I've grown to know Mike by now. Right. But anyway, so that was April of 22, and the end of May of 22, man, we moved back to the mainland. And then June 1st of 22, I took on the director of coaching role at Win Rate Consulting. And that has allowed me to really step into my true purpose. And man, I just love serving people and being a bright light and spreading joy and encouragement and ultimately serving God.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So what did you do with the boat? You sold it?
So, gosh, I still have the boat. Thomas, here's the thing. There's some of those things that you just don't get rid of because you're like, man, I busted my ass. Yes. I busted my ass. I did all this work and I got that. It could be a brand new, like riding lawnmower. I don't know what it is. Right. But there's those things you just don't give up. And so I kept holding on to this, thinking that someday I was going to go back. And it just realized that that's just not the season that God's got me in right now. Right. He's got me in a different season right now. When we moved to Venice, Florida, one of my wife's big goals, I need to teach her how to dream bigger. But anyway, one of her goals was, hey, I want our kids in private Christian school. And I said, say no less. And it just so happens the additional compensation that I can earn as the director of coaching was the exact amount of money for their tuition. And so, they're at Epiphany Cathedral School. It's been a true blessing over there. And the building that I'm in right now, I bought cash last November, so God's got big plans for me and I'm just embracing every opportunity that he puts in front of me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Let's talk a little bit about win rate. Like, look, man, full transparency. I mean, some people may come in and say like, oh, Step It Up Academy, Win Rate, you guys are competitors. And yeah, we probably are in some stretch of the imagination. But you guys are really focused mostly on coaching and consulting people in the construction goal, right? So what's the methodology that you and the team over there and Mike and Tiffany and everyone else, all rock stars too, by the way, what's the methodology you have basically implemented or set aside to really effectively and actually help these people? Because listen, let's just call it what it is, right? And we're just transparent here. There's a lot of coaches in the space who shouldn't be coaches. And I know Mike, I know you, I know how the team operates. I know what that man expects of his people. And we started the call talking about this too. And he expects excellence. Right? So what are you guys doing to basically separate yourselves from the rest of the competition, the rest of the pack?
Yeah, that's a great question, Thomas. And I'm gonna touch on something that you mentioned there just for a moment, which is coaches.
Sure.
The coaching industry has pretty much zero barriers to entry. And what I think is the misconception is everybody looks at the coaching industry like, oh, I can go be a consultant. I can be a coach. I can make a bunch of money. It's easy. That's the key point is people look at you, me, others are like, damn, he talks to people all day long and he makes a great living and looks like he's having fun all day long. Here's the reality. Being a true good coach, it's hard as fuck. You know that. You've done it. You do it every day. It's super hard. And guess what? Most of the people that go into it for the money, because it's easy, all of that, they've got no experience. And eventually they're going to be exploited. Eventually it's all going to be revealed that they're a fake. Here's the thing with us at WinRate. Every single one of our coaches has a documented, proven record of success in his own business. Every one of our coaches is either operating or has operated at a minimum a 7-figure company. Right? Because let's face it, the various phases of business, I mean, there's things you have to prepare for from $0 in revenue to you earn your first 6 figures, right? When you go from 6 figures to 250 to 5, 5 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 10, there's things change.
Yeah.
And so I think what makes us unique is that, we do a lot of one-on-one coaching. That's our primary offer, is one-on-one coaching. And I think this is probably the biggest thing, is that we don't have a set agenda. We don't have a set curriculum, if you will.
Yeah.
We are going to meet our client where the client is. Where are you at today? What are your pain points? What are you struggling with? Let's solve those problems. Oh, and by the way, what do you want from your business? A lot of clients don't know what the hell they want.
Yeah, they don't know.
And so we help them uncover that. We go through a what I want exercise. And once we can get clear on that, we can establish some goals and work towards that. And we do SWOT analysis and initiative creation and all of those types of things. And we do a lot of foundational stuff first. A lot of clients will come in, they're like, wait a minute, I'm working on core values. Like, it's kind of woo-woo. And I'm like,
yeah,
you're going to have to trust the process. Let's work on some of these foundational things. But Thomas, here's the other thing. We work on the person. Because as you're aware, man, and I know you know this, but a person's business is really an extension of the owner.
100%.
And most businesses that are broken or not operating at optimal capacity.
The leadership's broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so we work on the person, right?
Yeah.
What's wrong over here? Let's help you develop some healthy habits. What are you doing right now to self-sabotage? Let's get rid of that. Let's work on creating, a daily routine. We call it a championship day. Let's work on your core values. Let's figure out what your true mission, vision, niche, all of that is. But I think the thing that sets us apart, Thomas, is when somebody comes in, we don't say, here's your playbook. Lesson 1 is this. Lesson 2 is this. Lesson 3 is this. We want to really figure out what's going on with them. And then we can, again, create based on our experience.
Yeah.
Like if you can look behind me, there's not a lot of textbooks over here, man. There's books, personal development books, because I read every day, but there's not a lot of textbooks because I teach on experience.
Yeah.
And that's what we really leverage the experience of our coaching staff.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's very similar to what I do, but yet at the same time different, right? And you guys have your methodology, you have your different terminology. The thing is, same deal with me. People come in, they want to work with me, and it's like, okay, cool. Let's first figure out if you're a good fit for that organization. And we're leveraging core values during an assessment process, which is built into the sales process. And then from there, the first 1 to 2 coaching calls, and our main offer is more 1-to-1 coaching than group stuff as well. The first 1 to typically 2 coaching calls is I need to get to know you as a person first. I'll learn about you. Like, what makes you tick? What's going on at home? Are you married, not married? Are you in a relationship, not in a relationship? Like, what does this whole thing look like? How many people on a team? What does a team look like? How many people, who's sitting in what seats? Right. And getting all this information, it's just through open dialect and conversation, we get to learn a lot about the person. Going back to what you said too, with the leadership or the growth potential of a company is directly correlated to how much self-development the person has done on themselves. Here's the harsh reality, right? And I've had this talk, I may have even mentioned on the podcast before, from a marketing perspective, right? You guys and me, for the most part, because we do a lot of work on the person as well. Okay. And I think it's super important. I can't lead with that from a marketing message. I can't say, come work with us and we're going to actually help fix you on the personal side of things, because nobody will admit that they're broken. No, man, I'm good. I don't need that shit, but my business needs some help.
Yeah.
So we have to, I don't want to use the term bait and switch because it's not really what we're doing, right? But we have to lead with the marketing message of let us help you fix your business. But when you actually come behind the scenes, yeah, we're going to help you work on this. Yeah, we're going to help you review the P&L. We're going to help you do the SWOT analysis. We'll help you put together the org chart that you need for your future growth. We'll help you set the goals and targets. But also, we're going to dive in you as a person because I have to elevate you as an individual. And this is the equation. Like, people know me as the integrator, right? Because my natural abilities and tendencies have always been on the backside of business, building out those operations, building out the customer journey, that kind of shit. People come to me and they want help with all that stuff. But that's my whole point here is like, I have to help that person get better. I can build or help you build and develop this amazing back-end system or process that's going to help your business be more efficient, work better, bring more people on board, like all that crap, right? All the stuff that we know, well, not everyone knows, but you and I both know. I can build you all that shit. But if I don't elevate you as a person, you will not have the ability from an emotional intelligence level, from operational intelligence level to operate that system that I helped you build. So I have to bring the business up and you up simultaneously. Coaching and self-development is not a short-term play. It's going to take time. I mean, dude, I'm 43 years old now. When I was 35, I'm 8 years into the game at this point. Yeah. And I kick myself, if I could kick myself in the forehead like Wee Man, I would say, hey, dummy, you should have started this a long time before you actually did. But that just wasn't in the cards for me, right? Things happen to you or happen for you. Let me rephrase there. Things happen for you when they're supposed to happen for you. And for me, it was at the age of 35 when my first daughter came into the world.
Yeah. Bingo. No, you're exactly right. I mean, if I could tell me something, my younger self, I mean, I'm 45, I'll be 46 in a few months. And so like, I get pissed off sometimes because I'm like, damn, look at all that wasted opportunity. But then I have to stop. I'm where I'm at right this moment for a specific reason and for a perfect reason. Yeah. And so now, instead of worrying about the past, I embrace the present and I just execute today the best that I can with what I have. And at the end of the day, that is enough.
Yeah, it has to be. Has to be.
Yeah.
Man, this has been awesome. I appreciate you coming in here and sharing a lot of your story, talking about great and the awesome things that you and Mike and the rest of the crew are doing over there. I really, truly appreciate you coming in here and sharing that with us today. So
yeah, Thomas, it's been a true pleasure.
Typical podcast fashion here, man. What's the best place to connect with you and Win Rate?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can, I'm on the interwebs, all the socials, Facebook at Clifton Muckenfuss, Instagram at Boats and Bourbon. Two things that I love, but right now I'm on a little bit of a personal fitness journey. So no bourbon, but at Boats and Bourbon. Also on LinkedIn, winrateconsulting.com. And I want to just one last thing here. If anybody that listens to this goes to this website, this is not a sales funnel. I'm not going to try to like blow you up with offers, but go to adailydoseofmotivation.com. I send out a daily dose of motivation text message every Monday through Friday. Generally arrives in your inbox or on your cell phone between 8 and 8:30 a.m. And so it might just be exactly what you need to get you through the obstacle or the anxiety or the stress that you're facing in front of you. So adailydoseofmotivation.com. Go sign up and we'll light you up every day, Monday through Friday.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.